Hello, everyone, and I welcome you at our today's live interview with Nicholas, the COO and co-founder of Ibacus. He is one of our first startup competition participants who's going to be attending our summit to take a live interview. And this is our unique chance to actually take a look at what's going on with the blockchain project market from the other side. Hello, Nicholas.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for taking the time, and hi, everybody who's listening.
Okay, so I will just ask some simple questions about Ibacus. Please tell me, and the audience, of course, what the main scope of it is, what's the focus, and who are your clients? Who are you appealing to?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the time. I'll start sort of with the story of how Ibacus came to be. So a few years ago, the other two of my co-founders, Theo and Harry, were essentially exploring blockchain solutions because they wanted to build a booking platform. So as their first sort of decentralized application. So as they were looking at the available technologies, they sort of started hitting one wall after the other. None of these technologies could really scale. They had all problems of high latency, which is really a recipe for bad user experience. And then on top of that, they would see that these transaction fees would be sort of a big problem for customer acquisition. How can you actually acquire new customers? And sort of the first interaction that you're asking from them is, connect their wallets, stake their coins, or pay with their coins about something that they haven't even started using. So sort of that was the trigger when we said, look, the infrastructure right now is in its first iteration, and let's start working on making an infrastructure that is actually going to be useful for dApps to be built upon. So Ibacus essentially is a next generation blockchain that enables decentralized applications and especially games to reach mass adoption. So we do that by being able to offer free transactions, low latency, and with an industry leading at this point network capacity. Our aim is sort of to become the go-to infrastructure for the Web 3.0 applications.
So when you're speaking about high latency and high transactional costs, those are usually the issues derived from some particular protocol. Which one was the one that you used initially?
Yeah. So I mean, as most dApps right now are still being on Ethereum. Ethereum was the go-to essentially infrastructure that you wanted to build on. But at this point, Ethereum is at 17 transactions per second. It's not free, which means that for every interaction that you're asked to have with your dApp, you have to pay, and it has a latency of about 15 seconds. So it's good to build, I would say, a proof of concept type of dApps, but really nothing that can be customer facing or in the retail sort of industry. So a good example of that would be a very famous sort of dApp that came out, I think it was this year, was CryptoKitties.
Oh yeah, which immediately made it like
So my bet would be that a lot of people have read about it or heard about it as a story, but actually people who have used it, not that many. I mean, the audience can even test it. Just go on your mobile phone, go to their site, and by the time that we're done with the interview, nobody will be able to have sort of registered and started playing this. And the issue goes back to the user experience. That I'll go on a website, I'll see something that I'm interested in, like CryptoKitties, but it will tell me within the first minute that actually you're on an incompatible device. So if you're in your mobile device, forget about it. Go on a desktop. And then when you're on a desktop, it will tell you, well, you need to be on a specific browser like Chrome or Firefox or Mozilla. And even then it will tell you, and now you have to put a plugin. So it's sort of all of these steps and barriers which are being put between the dApp and the end user. As a result, today, CryptoKitties, the most famous, let's say, game, decentralized game right now, has no more than 400 daily users.
Well, and not to mention what happened like last winter when there was this high peak of transactions just reaching enormous prices and fees due to the CryptoKitties. So if we have several dApps like that, well, we kind of go bankrupt.
That's exactly our point. You see, you're in the develop. Let's get into the developer sort of seat right now. You've put, because games are expensive to make, as both from resources, time, and investment. So you've made this great game. You're about to launch, and suddenly you're plagued by all of these problems which are external to your product. People can't access it because you're clogging the whole Ethereum network, which is ridiculous. With that this happened. Then sort of you prepared, let's say, your marketing campaign. You're trying to reach out to 100,000 users, but then you see that all of that investment that you've put in has no return because they can't access your app. You're telling them to go on a very specific device. Now, today's people who access the web, over 60% of us primarily through a mobile phone, and we're really sort of happy to interact in that way. We see something we like, we want to download the app, or we need to be able to work to interact with this app on our mobile browser. And so suddenly you see that out of 100,000 people that you have reached out to, less than 200, 300 will actually end up, using your app, and that's a big problem.
Okay, so now let's say if I think Ibicus, do I install your app to do something, or can I use any web interface, any browser? Can I just use any device that I have? Do I have to go to the Play Market?
So Ibicus is an infrastructure. So essentially, we are in competition, let's say, with Ethereum and EOS and Neo, these types of sort of big blockchains. So in terms of performance, we'll share more on our performance and our benchmarks, during the competition. But yeah, just to put it in, I would say, in layman's terms, the end result is that you can access a DApp through your mobile phone, through your tablet, through any device you want. You're not asked to do any work for that. You're not asked to install any plugin. And most importantly, that after you've done sort of that, quick initial setup and you're interacting with an app, you don't need to pay, not upfront. So the way that we do that essentially is through an embeddable wallet, which any developer can use, and that embeddable wallet works, as I said, on any platform. And initially and very quickly secures the ID of the new user and can start interacting with the app. So the experience is very akin to what you were used to doing in today's ecosystems like Apple's or Android's.
Yeah, what I was also thinking when you actually describe that kind of first experience of an average user, like let's say installing CryptoKitties or accessing like any dApp, well, it was a part of my job, like when I actually just starting to use when I started to work with crypto, it was a part of my job. So therefore, there was no question whether I would do that or not, whether I would learn or not, because it was basically something that made me profits. But I do remember, when I was at high school, well, quite a while ago, back then we did not really have that sort of, normal daily mobile internet, but we had our regular, well, basically almost what we have now on the web. We had the same access to the internet at home from our desktops and laptops. So now I actually can refer to that experience of an average user accessing a dApp on an average protocol. Now I remember when I was at high school and somebody started, to play those games, and you had to download those from, as I remember, it was WPA. It was like horrible. You had the worst possible navigation. You had the very particular file manager system. You had to have the very particular browser. You had to pay like immense pricings for just downloading, like, let's say, one song or one game or just texting anyone on in that sort of web, and it was extremely user unfriendly. So basically, I remember like me having an Nokia, another one having a Sony Ericsson, had two different fields of struggle. So now I probably understand what you're referring to, and yes, it's like it's user unfriendly. Therefore, this business is not actually developing fast. So
yeah, that's actually a really good sort of example of you can look back in a lot of sort of big technologies and you see that there comes a point that you need to that we need to stop talking about the technology. And what I mean by that, blockchain is something that should be going on in the background. It's not something that the end user should be aware of or needs to be aware of. It's something that needs to be able there to provide an infrastructure for people to build beautiful new experiences. So there's a lot of fuss going on about blockchain, and we're really happy about that because we think it's sort of it is a breakthrough technology and will change a lot of things moving forward. But in order for any technology to have you know, a long-term viability, it needs to be able to reach a mass audience. Today's blockchain cannot. I mean, even if we sort of see the market as a whole, there's less than 40 million or about 40 million Ethereum verified accounts. That's a very small portion of people. So, and everybody that's interacting with blockchain, it's basically on cryptocurrencies or on exchanges and using them in sort of that way. And so if this technology is to break through, we need to move past this sort of initial phase and start building really useful applications for people to use. That was Ethereum's actually sort of vision, you know, the place where dApps are going to be built. It stumbled, let's say, upon something called the creation of tokens, and that made Ethereum what it is today. But on its actual promise that people are going to build dApps on, it is failing. And as a result, that's why you see that over the past few months, and that's a sort of a big trend going on already in the industry, a lot of developers are switching to faster chains like EOS, where at least they believe that their dApp, the work that they've put in, can sort of show the true potential of what they've done.
Well, it kind of, I mean, there are still questions about different sorts of protocols, because the consensus model is also something that that will sooner or later make people concerned with security issues. I mean, now when it's all about one distributed app of, I don't know, of a McDonald's-like restaurant or of a CryptoKitties game, we probably do not consider that. But anyway, we will have to pay a lot of attention. Like now, you know, well, you navigate to any website, you see it's not the HTTPS, you leave the website immediately because you just do not want to. It's not that you're sure they will spam or malware or something. It's just you don't want to really work with developers who are not up to date in terms of security. The same story will, I believe, sooner or later happen in terms of the protocols consensus models. But speaking about the applications, yes, this is all about how many different domains, how many different audiences you actually outreach. Now, speaking about eBigers, I understand that you will be presenting it in a form of concept presentation there, but do you already have any established work with businesses or any pilot projects running in your network? Do you already have you already started that development?
Yeah. So yes, we will be presenting it, and sort of we're going to put we're going to try to put most of our time into actually doing a real demo. So eBigers has been live since January of 2018 on testnet. We've gone already through a few iterations, and our goal is to be able to move to the mainnet in the next few months, and by that I mean in 3 months. So we're really advanced on the technology and the development stage. Now, in terms of reaching out to the market, our decision is to really focus right now on the gaming industry, as we see that it's a really good match for the types of advantages that our chain gives to developers, which is, you know, help them to get their adapt to mass adoption. And already we've done a few things in-house, so developed a few things in-house which we're sort of testing on our own. We're starting reaching out to primarily indie developers, and we are in talks with a few what I would say are AAA companies that make games. But no, in terms of sort of having a deal signed on a paper with companies to develop on us, we don't. As I said, you know, we're an early stage startup. We because of the way that the market was, to be honest with you, we sort of put all our attention, our resources on development rather on marketing.
Okay, well then let me just paraphrase it. since we are also paying quite a bunch of attention to networking on our event, and we want people to have the grounds to actually not just pitch, not just show off, not just give some slides on their keynotes. We actually want people to collaborate. We want people to link to each other, to find new ways of cooperation. If, let's say, there is a business, an entrepreneur, an individual, or I don't know, an office that approaches you after your pitch and tells you like, okay, this is perfectly great that you're now in development, but what I need is, let's say, a network with these conditions, and are you able to provide it? Like, are you open to that kind of communication at the event?
Okay, so I mean, one of the benefits of really building a team which is focused on development gives you a lot of options in this industry moving forward. So our goal, as I said, is to launch this public blockchain with advantages I mentioned before. Now, at the same time, as we move forward, we can see this being a very good, from a business point of view, a very good solution as we move forward. So you can see a lot of these big companies, corporates who are starting sort of to explore blockchain technology and how they can use it within their ecosystems. Primarily what they're talking about is private blockchain. They're interested in, you know, for example, a company which is in healthcare is not interested storing patient data on a public blockchain. However, they are very interested in exploring these options for a privately run blockchain. So eBakus could be a very good fit in the future for companies like that, where because of our experience of building sort of a fast, free, and scalable public blockchain, it's very easy for us to sort of iterate and be able to customize a solution for big corporate clients. For the event in particular, our interest is more on sort of putting eBakus, let's say, on the map. So eBakus, half of the team actually is from Basel, Switzerland. So the fact that this event is in our hometown is yeah, quite important for us, and it's a good way for us to sort of announce to the world that, you know, here we are, this is what we're doing. And so networking at the event, whether that's with blockchain developers, investors, or generally, as I would say, corporate clients who are interested in sort of an early stage, or they themselves at an early stage of exploring the blockchain spaces we were looking to achieve at this event.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, yes, we will have representatives of big pharma that will present their visions on their business projects, pilots. But actually, it's not just healthcare. It's we have representatives of different industrial giants, and I have actually to double check whether that's all necessarily private blockchain that they're looking for, but we'll take a look at that. Anyway, the thing is that I believe what's actually definitely important is that we are looking for the merge of, you know, like the traditional world and the developers world, and this is basically what I want everyone to achieve at the summit.
I mean, I think that's sort of and that matches our goal in a sort of very straightforward way. As I said, the goal of eBakus is to bring dApps to mass adoption. This industry will move forward because of its dApps. At least that's my estimation. So just to give a parallel, you know, every few years, every 5 to 8 years, we have a new gaming console launch. You have the Xbox and the PlayStation. You have the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. The failure of these, let's say, platforms is based on the actual games that are being produced. So in the same way for blockchain, the success of one protocol over another, or sort of the general success, will be that people and developers start creating products and experiences which actually reach a mass audience, or else we're just having, you know, conferences and talking to each other about how great
how great it would be if it happened.
Yes, and so I mean, I'm sure, Dennis, you yourself have been in a lot of conferences, and sort of you'll see that over the past few months, now that we're, you know, falling off the craze of last year, a lot of these conferences are sort of self-congratulatory. You know, we go there, we say how great blockchain is, and it's going to change the world, but we don't have anything to show for it. We don't have real life examples which sort of reach a mass audience and make a difference. And that is sort of the paradigm that we need to change as we move forward.
Well, totally agreed on that. But what's more important, not more important, but what I would like to add to that is that actually I believe we are now looking already at the market getting ready, like it happened with the internet a while ago. First of all, it was just a bunch of geeks using some sort of FidoNet or something, just sharing some data. Nobody actually used it. Like I say, 95% of people never heard of it. But then it became what we're actually using right now to be, like thousands of miles away from each other, and we are right here, and we are basically now distributing it to like all these audiences. And what I believe we're right now looking at is that I hope the next year will actually show that the blockchain technology can achieve the same story. Especially with more and more businesses joining in. It's basically, as you said in the beginning, you're right, it's about the transactional cost, it's about the speed, it's about the latency. Once these problems solved, well, there is no other question why they shouldn't.
No, absolutely agree. And I think the sort of the example or the parallel with that sort of .com era where
exactly
basically what happened last year. In the .com era, you could sort of just pull up a website. People were not in tune still with this technology, or sort of had read up enough with it to understand the difference between Amazon and just a website. And so that's what happened last year. People started investing enormous amounts of monies or making bets into things which were simply a document, just a 25-page, let's say, white paper with no work being done behind it. So I think it's natural, and as I said, in most emerging technologies, there's sort of this combination of people not knowing but still wanting to participate. Now everybody's sort of getting a bit more educated about what the technology is and what it can do, and the market is normalizing. And to be honest, for us, we look forward to this normalization of the market and sort of that search for where true value can come out from.
Well, yeah, it's as I've been speaking to one of my partners, and he was a bit sort of a bit distressed about what happened like the last spring and summer. He said this spring and summer, he said, like, what's going on with the market? And I said, like, come on, like hold on, this is basically natural, it's supposed to be that way. But now when we see like universities, academia, when we have like big corporations already paying direct attention to the technology, it's a healthy sign.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the problem. Sort of one unique thing about this technology is that it has a daily price on it. Which is that it has a cryptocurrency market which sort of puts a value on it every single second. There are other emerging technologies, like, let's say, for example, VR and AR. There was a lot of hype about AR and VR the past couple of years. In terms of usability, there are very few examples. Because there's no value which can be traded on a daily basis, people do not react in such panic or with so extreme emotions as they do about blockchain. Blockchain has sort of that negative that blockchain is useful when the market is going up, and it has potential. When it's going down, people tend to be afraid of the end of the world, or that blockchain will never fulfill its sort of long-term promise. But it's early days, and it's a really promising technology. And you see that the more that the ecosystem starts producing useful things, the more that the ecosystem starts showing how other industries can really benefit from this. So there are different ways where how the financial industry can benefit. There's supply chain, which is sort of a huge potential for the blockchain market. There is healthcare with sort of some specific cases. And then there's gaming, which is, we like gaming because even today, it's still the most dominant industry on your mobile device. By far the most successful and continuously growing is gaming, whether that's on iOS, on Android, on PC. And So new experiences will be created, new ways of interacting, with one another will sort of come about, and the governance, which is what you mentioned earlier, that's a very tricky one, and it will probably go through a few iterations, painful iterations, until every chain figures out what really works, what really doesn't. If a lot of these things can be abused, and so we'll have to figure out how you truly do this in a decentralized and democratic way. But exciting times ahead, I think.
Totally, and let's hope for that. Well, thank you very much for that dialogue. I would actually love to see your presentation at the summit. Actually, please do not forget to send it in if you haven't yet.
No, we haven't sent it. I mean, I know there's a deadline until Thursday night. We're sort of, as a team, we're quite experienced, so we will be last minute, and that's because we want to make sure that we sort of hit all the right notes. But actually, what we're looking more forward to is to try and do, based on the conditions of the room, as much as of a live demo as we can. Demos speak more than any slide can usually during these presentations. So we're going to try to put on a good show, and we're really excited to be there.
Great. Okay, so thank you very much, and I hope you guys will be, you will stay tuned. We will have more lives, and you will be able to attend Nicholas and his presentation of their project on November 23rd in Basel. Please join us, and you all guys have a good.
Thank you, Dennis. Have a good day.
Yeah, take care.